Where are the Leeward Islands?
The Leeward Islands are also located in the Caribbean and are less exposed to the northeasterlies. Because these islands are lee, or away from the wind, they were named the Leeward Islands. The Leeward Islands include Dominica, Guadeloupe, Montserrat, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts, Nevis, Anguilla, and the Virgin Islands.
What is the largest city in Siberia?
Located in southern Siberia and on the Trans-Siberian Railroad route, Novosibirsk is the largest city in Siberia. With a population of 1.4 million.
Where is the biggest desalination plant in the United States?
The biggest American desalination plant is in Tampa, Florida. It has an output of 25 million gallons, 94.6 million liters, per day. This is a fraction of the largest plant in the world, the Jebel Ali plant. Located in the United Arab Emirates, it produces over 200 million gallons, 757 million liters, per day.
What are the most commonly spoken languages of the world?
Mandarin Chinese is spoken by 1.05 billion people. This is followed by English, with 1 billion people, Hindustani, Hindu and Urdu, with 650 million speakers. Spanish, with 500 million speakers, and Arabic, with over 400 million speakers.
Why don't FM radio waves travel very far?
FM radio waves are line of sight, which means they can only travel as far as their power and the height of their radio antenna will allow. The taller the antenna, the farther the waves can travel along the horizon. As long as they have enough power.
What is the difference between a country and a nation?
Many people use the terms country and nation interchangeably. But not all nations are countries, nor are all countries nations. A country is the equivalent of a state, and is a political entity. A nation is a group of people with a common heritage and culture. Some nations have a state and are thus called a nation-state. Nation-states include France, Germany, Japan, China, and the United States. Some nations have no state, such as the Kurds and Palestinians. Some states have multiple nations such as Belgium, which is composed of two nations, the Flemings and Walloons.
How much is the sea level rising?
Recent estimates show the sea level has increased 7 to 12 inches. 20 to 30 centimeters, during the 20th century.
Which country has more languages than any other in the world?
Papua New Guinea is home to more than 700 different languages. The most common languages spoken there are Motu and Pidgin English.
What percentage of Americans have used cocaine?
Approximately 14% of the U.S. population uses or has used cocaine.
How did the Nazis use geopolitics?
During the Nazi era in Germany, 1933 to 1945, the science of geopolitics was utilized to support Germany's concept of Lebensraum, or living space. The Nazi concept of Lebensraum was based on the idea that there was a racial hierarchy that allowed superior races to conquer inferior races. Adolf Hitler used this warped sense of geopolitics to invade Czechoslovakia, Poland, and the Soviet Union. For example, many claimed that the ethnic Germans living in the Sudetenland of Czechoslovakia should be included within the German fatherland.
What is evapotranspiration?
Evapotranspiration is the combination of water vapor being evaporated from the surface of the earth, such as from lakes, rivers, or puddles, into the atmosphere. And transpiration, which is the movement of water from plants to the air.
Everest growing taller?
Because of the shifting plates underneath the surface of the Earth, Mt. Everest is actually growing at a rate of 2.4 inches, 6.1 centimeters, per year.
Why was the Vietnam War fought, and what were some of the consequences?
After World War II, Vietnamese nationalists and communists fought the French to gain their freedom from European colonization. Ultimately, the French left Vietnam in shambles, and the former colony divided into the primarily communist-controlled North and the pro-West forces in the South. The United States initially was involved in the war to help its ally France regain control of the colony by sending in advisors and aiding in military supplies. Forces in the South saw the chance to gain American assistance, and they convinced various U.S. administrations to assist in ridding the country of their enemies. In an effort to stem the spread of communism, the United States continued to support South Vietnam until the fall of Saigon in 1975. Ironically, during the height of the Vietnam War in 1970, while Communist Vietnamese were being portrayed as a threat to the American way of life, President Richard Nixon and Secretary of State Henry Kissinger were courting the largest, most radical communist country, the People's Republic of China, to extend relations with the West. China had been funding and supporting militarily Vietnamese resistance against both French and American forces for decades. The American occupation of Vietnam lasted from 1962 to 1975. In 1975, Saigon was overrun by communist forces, and the country was eventually unified under one communist regime. The aftermath and legacy of the war in Vietnam was the destabilization of and genocide in neighboring Laos and Cambodia, which cost millions of lives during the upheaval of the 1970s, as well as the displacement of millions of Vietnamese, some of whom emigrated to the U.S. as boat people.
Is Singapore a city or a country?
Singapore, a city-state, is both a city and a country, and one of the wealthiest, most developed countries in the world. Born out of the extreme hardship and mass killings of World War II, the country was taken under United Kingdom control after the Japanese defeat. In 1963, Singapore merged with the states of Malaya, Sabah, and Sarawak to form what is Malaysia today. In 1965, Singapore split from Malaysia and formed its own country.
Where is the highest life expectancy on Earth?
People in Andorra live on average 83.52 years.
Is Transylvania a country?
The home of Count Dracula, Transylvania is a region located in central Romania. Transylvania is surrounded by the Transylvanian Alps and the Carpathian Mountains, a productive region in the western part of Romania. It contributes more than one-third of the total economic output of that country today.
How big is the Sahara Desert?
The Sahara is the world's largest desert. It covers more than 3.5 million square miles, 9 million square kilometers, in northern Africa. The Sahara receives less than 10 inches, 25 centimeters, of rain each year but contains hundreds of individual oases. The elevation in the Sahara Desert ranges from 100 feet, 30.5 meters, below, to more than 11,000 feet, 3,353 meters, above sea level. There are people who live in the Sahara, mostly at or near oases.
What is Aotearoa?
Aotearoa is the Maori name for New Zealand. It means the land of the long white cloud.
Why is it very wet on one side of a mountain range?
It's much more wet on one side of a mountain than the other. Because of a process known as orographic precipitation. Orographic precipitation causes air to rise up the side of a mountain range and cool, creating storms. The storms deposit a great deal of precipitation on that side of the mountain and create a rain shadow effect on the opposite side of the range. The Sierra Nevada mountains are an excellent example of orographic precipitation. Because the mountains of the western Sierras receive considerable rainfall, far more than California's Central Valley, while the eastern Sierras of Nevada are quite dry.
How prevalent is AIDS in Africa?
Approximately 22.5 million Africans have AIDS, which makes up 64% of the world's AIDS cases. Almost all AIDS transmission in Africa is through heterosexual intercourse. Approximately 2.3 million have died of AIDS-related illnesses in Africa.
What should I do in the event of an earthquake?
Duck, cover, and hold. Duck under a table, counter, or any area that can provide protection from falling objects. Cover the back of your head with your hands to help protect against flying debris. Hold onto the leg of the table or anything solid to ride out the shaking.
How many people live on the planet?
As of 2008, approximately 6.7 billion people inhabit Earth. This number is increasing at a rate of around 1% per year.
How long have communists been in power in China?
China's Communist Revolution took place in 1949, and Mao Zedong became the country's first chairman. Communism has been the doctrine ever since.
What are the 5 smallest states?
The five smallest states are Rhode Island, 1,200 square miles 3,108 square kilometers. Delaware, 2,000 square miles 5,180 square kilometers, Connecticut. 5,000 square miles 12,950 square kilometers, Hawaii, 6,500 square miles 16,835 square kilometers. And New Jersey, 7,800 square miles 20,202 square kilometers.
How did North and South Korea come to be?
From 1392 to 1910 the Korean peninsula was the home of the Choson Kingdom, as it is referred to by its inhabitants. In 1910 Japan took control of the peninsula but lost this territory after its defeat in World War II. North and South Korea are still divided by a line that lies near the latitude of 38 degrees north. This latitude marked the line dividing the Soviet occupation zone in the north and the American occupation zone in the south following World War II. From 1950 to 1953, the Communist North Koreans fought with the Democratic South Koreans, with American forces involved in the Korean War. North Korea's army was eventually forced to retreat into China, though it later recaptured land to the 38th parallel, where the border between the two Koreas remains today.
What is Ulaanbaatar?
Ulaanbaatar is the capital of the Republic of Mongolia.
How many volcanoes are in Europe?
There are more than 100 volcanoes in Europe.
What are the most polluted cities in the world in terms of air quality?
The most severe air pollution can be found in the following cities: Cairo, Egypt; Delhi, India; Kolkata, India; Tianjin, China; Chongqing, China; Kanpur, India; Lucknow, India; Jakarta, Indonesia; and Shenyang, China.
What Russian city lost the most people during World War II?
During the German 900-day siege of Leningrad, St. Petersburg, from 1941 to 1943, nearly 1.5 million people lost their lives.
What is the axis of the Earth?
The axis is the imaginary line that passes through the North and South poles about which the Earth revolves.
Kilimanjaro formed?
MT. Kilimanjaro, the tallest mountain in Africa at 19,340 feet. 5,895 meters, was formed as a volcano, but is now dormant. The mountain is located in northeastern Tanzania and was first climbed in 1889 by German geographer Hans Meyer and Austrian climber Ludwig Pertzkeller.
What is the Richter scale?
The Richter scale measures the energy released by an earthquake. It was developed in 1935 by California seismologist Charles F. Richter. With each increase in Richter magnitude, there is an increase of 30 times the energy released by an earthquake. For example, a 7.0 earthquake has 30 times the power of a 6.0. And an 8.0 is 900 times as powerful as a 6.0. Each earthquake only has one Richter magnitude. The strongest earthquakes are in the 8.0 range, 8.6 for Alaska's 1964 earthquake, and 8.0 for China's 1976 earthquake in Tangshan.
When did the Suez Canal begin to operate?
After a decade of construction, the Suez Canal, built by the French, opened on November 17, 1869. The 101-mile-long, 162.5-kilometer-long, canal cuts through northeastern Egypt, making a passageway for ships to sail between the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea, which leads to the Indian Ocean.
Which country in Africa is the only country that is not a member of the African Union?
Morocco withdrew from the previous Organization of African Unity in 1984 over a dispute with members on the recognition of Sahrawi by the organization. It did not become a member of the newly formed African Union.
Was the 2005 New Orleans disaster caused by a flood or a hurricane?
The initial cause of the disaster was Hurricane Katrina, which whipped up tides and surged rain and sea water against a very fragile levee system that protected New Orleans. The city is 49% below sea level, and so when the man-made levees broke, flood waters moved in and inundated much of the city.
Which country first granted women the right to vote?
In 1893, New Zealand became the first country to give women the right to vote.
Where is the Sun Belt?
The Sun Belt, known for its warm temperatures, is a geographical area that spreads across the southern and southwestern states of the United States. It has been an area of high population growth over the past few decades. As more families and individuals have moved to states like California, Arizona, Texas, and Florida.
Who are the Kurds?
The Kurds are a Middle Eastern people who have no country of their own. They live in southeastern Turkey, northern Iran, northern Iraq, and other nearby countries. Since the Kurds have been persecuted by Iraq, the United Nations established a security zone for them north of 36 degrees north in Iraq. The Kurds hope that one day they will have their own nation-state in the region where they now live.
What is the longest building in the world?
Catching a flight from Osaka, Japan's Kansai International Airport could involve a walk of more than a mile. It is 5,580 feet, 1.7 kilometers, long.
What is The Hague?
The Hague is a city on the west coast of the Netherlands with an approximate population of 450,000. The Hague is the home of many international organizations, such as the International Court of Justice.
How is gerrymandering like a salamander?
In 1812, Massachusetts Governor Elbridge Gerry signed a law that established an oddly shaped congressional district. It was redrawn by political cartoonists into a salamander-type creature, and thus the term gerrymander was born. Gerrymandering is the process of establishing oddly shaped congressional districts in order to include voters from dispersed areas. Gerrymandered districts can be helpful or detrimental to minority groups, depending on who draws the borders. The U.S. courts have found gerrymandering to be a legal method of establishing congressional boundaries.
Where will the biggest dam in the world be located?
The Three Gorges Dam, which spans the Yangtze River in China's Hubei province, will be the biggest dam in the world once it is completed. It will be capable of generating 22,500 megawatts of power. Over 1,500,000 people will likely be displaced as a result of living in the valleys above the dam. This fact, along with the potential loss of thousands of archaeological sites, has been a source of controversy since the project was conceived in the 1990s.
What type of sand do we often see on beaches near volcanoes?
Because of the content of the sediment near volcanoes comprised of dark black igneous rock. The resulting beach sand in such places as Hawaii and Indonesia is actually a dark brown, even black in color.
Where did the Inca civilization develop?
In the 15th and 16th centuries. The civilization of the Incas developed in the altiplanos of the Andes Mountains. Altiplanos are high plains located among the mountains that are suitable for habitation. The Bolivian capital of La Paz is also located on an altiplano. The Inca civilization lasted from approximately the 11th through 16th centuries.
Can you ski in the Middle East?
Yes, you can ski in the Middle East. Since many parts are mountainous, thousands of people ski in such places as Dizan and Shemshak, Iran, and in Faria, Lebanon. People can even ski in Dubai, along the coast of the Persian Gulf, where each year thousands enjoy skiing in one of the largest indoor ski facilities in the world.
How long are the Rockies?
The Rocky Mountains, Rockies, extend over 2,000 miles, 3,200 kilometers. From the Yukon Territory in Canada to Arizona and New Mexico in the southern United States.
What was Gran Colombia?
After many wars against Spain for independence, Gran Colombia, led by Simon Bolívar, became an independent country in 1821. Gran Colombia consisted of the area that is now present-day Colombia, Panama, Ecuador, and Venezuela. In 1830, Gran Colombia was split into Colombia, which included Panama, Ecuador, and Venezuela.
When was the last interstate highway built?
The construction of new interstate highways came to an end in 1993 with the opening of Interstate 105, the Century Freeway. In Los Angeles, 37 years after construction began on the system. The Century Freeway is an intercity route connecting the coastal community of El Segundo to Interstates 405, 110, 710, and finally 605 in Norwalk.
When did Brazil move its capital city?
In 1960, Brazil moved its capital city from Rio de Janeiro to a brand new city in the center of the country, called Brasilia. Brasilia was designed and constructed on empty land near the center of the country in the 1950s. Brazil moved its capital from Rio de Janeiro to Brasilia to assert its independence. Exchanging a colonial capital on the coast for a new interior capital. The interior, underdeveloped, location of the new capital allowed a fresh start as well as an opportunity to develop the region.
Who was Simon Bolivar?
In the early 19th century, Simon Bolivar led the fight in South America for independence from Spain. He is revered as a hero among South Americans for his role in the independence of Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. Bolivia was named in honor of Bolivar.
Which continent has the highest average elevation?
The average elevation of Antarctica, approximately 8,000 feet. 2,438 meters, is higher than that of any other continent. The highest point in Antarctica is Vinson Massif, with an elevation of 16,860 feet, 5,139 meters.
Which member of the United Nations could not serve on the Security Council?
In order to sit on one of the 4 rotating spots on the 9-member Security Council, a member of the United Nations must also be a member of one of 5 regional groups. Israel was not eligible until 2000 because of its hostile relations with Arab nations.
What are some world weather records?
The following are some amazing weather records. The wettest, Cherrapunji, India, with 500 inches, 1,270 centimeters, of rainfall per year. The coldest, Antarctica, with a measurement of -129 degrees Fahrenheit, -89.4 degrees Celsius. The driest, Arica, Chile, which only receives 0.004 inches, 0.01 centimeters, of rainfall per year. And the hottest, Azizia, Libya, which has sizzled at 136 degrees Fahrenheit, 57.7 degrees Celsius.
How does water wash away the land?
Drops of rain hit soil and rock and displace grains. When water flows over the surface, it loosens and carries away pieces of rock or soil. There is a tremendous amount of energy in a raindrop. Over days, weeks, months, years, centuries, and millennia. The erosive power of water can cut through even the strongest rocks. The material that the flowing water picks up is eventually deposited. When the flow of the stream slows down, this is known as deposition.
How did the League of Nations fail?
The League of Nations, which was created in 1920 and replaced by the United Nations in 1945, failed in its mission to prevent World War II. Even though the League was essentially the creation of President Woodrow Wilson, the isolationist United States never became a member.
Has NAFTA helped trade between Canada, Mexico, and the United States?
Yes, from 1993 to 2007 trade between the NAFTA countries more than tripled, rising from $290 billion to $930 billion.
What is Randstad?
The Randstad is a region of the Netherlands that includes the metropolitan areas of Amsterdam, The Hague, Rotterdam, and Utrecht. The urban area of the Randstad holds nearly half the Netherlands' population.
What is the most dangerous state to live in due to tornadoes?
Massachusetts is considered the most dangerous state to live in due to tornadoes, while Oklahoma receives far more tornadoes than Massachusetts does. The population density and risk of death or severe injury is greater in the New England state.
Why is it hotter in the city than in the countryside?
Cities have higher temperatures due to an effect known as the urban heat island. The extensive pavement, buildings, machinery, pollution from automobiles, and other things urban cause this warmth in the city. Cities such as Los Angeles can be up to 5 degrees hotter than surrounding areas due to the urban heat island effect. The term comes from temperature maps of cities where the hotter urban areas look like islands when isotherms, lines of equal temperature, are drawn.
What is a topographic map?
A topographic map shows human and physical features of the Earth and can be distinguished from other maps by its great detail and by its contour lines indicating elevation. Topographic maps are excellent sources of detailed information about a very small area of the Earth. The United States Geological Survey, USGS, produces a set of topographic maps for the United States that are at a scale of 1:24,000, 1 inch equaling 2,000 feet or 1 centimeter equaling about 240 kilometers. You can purchase these maps online, at sporting goods stores, or through the USGS itself.
What is the oldest college in the United States?
Harvard University is the oldest college or university in the United States. It was founded in 1636 in Cambridge, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston.
What did the phrase 54-40 or fight mean?
In the mid-19th century, many Americans wanted to see the United States territory expand northward into the area now known as Canada. The phrase 54-40 or fight referred to the desire to move the boundary northward to 54 degrees 40 minutes north, which would have encompassed much of southern Canada. Ultimately, the boundary was fixed at 49 degrees north, where it sits today.
Of all countries in Africa, which countries were never colonized?
Only 3 countries escaped the onslaught of European colonial occupation: Liberia, Ethiopia, and Sudan.
What happens when I cross the international date line?
If you fly, sail, or swim across the international date line from east to west, such as from the United States to Japan, you add a day. Sunday becomes Monday. When you travel from west to east, such as from Japan to the United States, you subtract a day. Sunday becomes Saturday.
Who was Captain Kidd?
Though Captain William Kidd was hired by the British to fight pirates, he himself soon became a pirate. After he set sail for Africa, an area swarming with pirates, reports returned to Britain that Kidd himself had captured several ships. Upon learning of a warrant for his arrest, Kidd sailed to Boston to meet a benefactor, who then had Kidd arrested and sent back to Britain. On May 23, 1701, Kidd was hanged for piracy.
How did the Inca civilization experiment with climate?
In the Urubamba Valley in Peru, in a city called Moray, is the remains of a great amphitheater-like terrace system. Archaeologists and scientists now believe that this was a great agricultural laboratory, where each area of the terrace exhibited completely different climates, allowing the Incas to experiment with different climates and growing techniques.
How can I measure how much rain falls where I live?
Any container with a flat bottom and flat sides can measure rainfall. The width of the top of the container must be the same as at the bottom of the container. But the diameter does not matter. It could be a device purchased for measuring precipitation or something as simple as a coffee can.
Where does the Loch Ness Monster live?
The fabled monster is supposed to live in Loch Ness. The term loch is Gaelic and is used in Scotland to refer to a lake or narrow inlet of the sea. Loch Ness is fully surrounded by land and is therefore a lake.
Is a magnitude 10 the top of the Richter scale?
While the media often refers to the Richter scale as being on a scale of 1 to 10, there is no upper limit. Even though the strongest quakes are not as high as 10, it is incorrect to assume that a 7 is on a scale of 1 to 10 because the magnitudes are based on the energy released and it is a logarithmic scale.
What is the European Union?
In 1951, 6 Western European countries joined together in the European Coal and Steel Community. As more members joined, the organization grew in scope and soon became an organization that helped mend and meld the economies of Europe. In 1993, the European Community was renamed the European Union, EU. Today, there are 27 member states: Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Cyprus, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, the Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, and the United Kingdom. The European Union has a flag, an anthem, and in 1999 began using a single monetary unit, the euro.
What world weather records does the United States hold?
The United States claims the world's highest surface wind, 231 miles 372 kilometers per hour peak gust in New Hampshire. World's greatest average yearly precipitation, 472 inches 1,200 centimeters in Hawaii. and the world's heaviest 42-minute rainfall, 12 inches 31 centimeters in Missouri.
What is the world's highest capital city?
La Paz, Bolivia, is the world's highest capital city. La Paz is located high in the Andes Mountains at an elevation of 12,507 feet, 3,700 meters. It was founded in 1548 by Spanish explorers and is now home to approximately 711,000 people.
Who was at sea the Iceman?
In 1991, two German tourists were hiking in the Itzal Alps, on the Italian side of the border between Italy and Austria. When they happened upon what appeared to be a corpse buried beneath the ice. Astounded, they alerted authorities. It was found that Itzi, as the body was named, was a 45-year-old traveler himself who was more than 5,300 years old. It was likely he faced what investigators believe was a violent death. On his body were more than 50 tattoos, jewelry, and weapons, all of which gave researchers clues into the lives of our Copper Age ancestors.
Who owns Antarctica?
Though Antarctica is a cold, icy, barren territory, 7 countries claimed portions of it in the early 20th century. All of these claims were defined by lines of longitude, and problems arose as many of these claims overlapped. In 1959, the Antarctic Treaty was established, proclaiming that no additional claims could be made upon Antarctica and that the continent would be used solely for scientific purposes.
What is the world's most densely populated island?
The Indonesian island of Java is the world's most densely populated island. It has a total population of over 124 million, which, when placed within its 51,000 square miles, 132,000 square kilometers, of land, gives it a density of over 2,431 people per square mile. Indonesia's capital city, Jakarta, is located on the island of Java.
What are monsoons?
Occurring in southern Asia, monsoons are winds that flow from the ocean to the continent during the summer and from the continent to the ocean in the winter. The winds come from the southwest from April to October, and from the northeast, the opposite direction, from October to April. The summer monsoons bring a great deal of moisture to the land. They cause deadly floods in low-lying river valleys, but also provide the water southern Asia relies upon for agriculture.
Where is Canada's population concentrated?
Over half of Canada's population lies in southern Ontario and southern Quebec in eastern Canada. This area, dubbed Main Street, stretches from Windsor, Ontario, to Quebec City, Quebec, and includes the major cities of Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal.
How big is the area of the North Pole ice region?
The Arctic ice mass covers an area of 1.59 million square miles, 4.1 million square kilometers.
How did Cuba become a communist country?
Having been an independent country for 57 years, the Cuban government, run by the dictator Fulgencio Batista y Salvador, fell to the communist leader Fidel Castro in 1959. Because of Cuba's communist government, the United States severed its relationship with Cuba, forcing the island to ally itself with the Soviet Union. In October 1962, the presence of this nearby communist country caused extreme terror. In the United States, when the USSR attempted to place nuclear missiles within Cuba. The Cuban Missile Crisis is thought to be the closest the Cold War ever got to a real nuclear war.
Why was Eisenhower a fan of interstate highways?
In 1919, the young Dwight D. Eisenhower took part in a cross-country military trip from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco. But, due to the state of the highways at that time, the trip took 62 days, far too long to defend the country should the need arise. This experience made Eisenhower realize the need for a faster, more efficient mode of transportation across the country. Because of President Eisenhower's support for the interstate highway system, it is now officially known as the Dwight D. Eisenhower System of Interstate and Defense Highways.
What is the actual name of Bogotá?
Bogotá, Colombia, was originally called Santa Fe. More recently, the name became Santa Fe de Bogotá. Today, the Colombian capital is known as Bogotá for short, and about 8 million people live in its metropolitan area.
Which Hawaiian island was once a leper colony?
On the island of Molokai in Hawaii, authorities established a secluded leper colony on an inaccessible cove. Its founder, Father Damien, served and cared for the inhabitants. He eventually died of the disease, and the Catholic Church made him a saint for his work.
What is the highest fjord in Norway?
The highest fjord is Sognefjord, which begins at a depth of 4,291 feet. 1,308 meters, in the ocean, and rises to more than 3,280 feet, 1,000 meters.
Who was the greatest explorer of the Arab world?
Known as the Muslim Marco Polo, Ibn Battuta, 1304–1369, explored much of Africa and Asia. In his lifetime, Ibn Battuta traveled over 75,000 miles, 120,000 kilometers. Gaining the reputation of the most traveled man on earth.
Where is Asia Minor?
Asia Minor is the term used for the larger part of Turkey that lies in Asia, east of the Strait of Bosporus. This part of Turkey is also known as Anatolia.
What is an azimuth?
Azimuth is another method for stating compass direction. It is based on the compass as 360 degrees, with north at 0 degrees, east at 90, south at 180, and west at 270 degrees. You can refer to a direction as head 90 degrees instead of head east.
Where was Kunta Kinte from?
Kunta Kinte, the protagonist of Alex Haley's novel Roots, was from Gambia. Though Gambia follows 200 miles, 322 kilometers, of the Gambia River, it is a very thin country, averaging only 12 miles, 19 kilometers, in width. Gambia lies entirely within Africa's smallest country, Senegal.
Have compasses always pointed north?
No, they have not. Though compasses always point to the magnetic pole has not always been in the north. Every 300,000 to 1 million years, the magnetic pole flips from north to south or from south to north. If compasses had been around before the last time the magnetic pole reversed, their arrows would have pointed south rather than north.
How are hurricanes ranked?
Hurricanes are ranked on a scale of 1 to 5. With Category 1 hurricanes being the weakest and Category 5 being the strongest and most destructive. The damage caused by each category of hurricane ranks from 1. Minimal, 2. Moderate, 3. Extensive, 4. Extreme, such as Hurricane Andrew in 1992, to 5. Catastrophic.
Where does Europe end and Asia begin?
Though Europe and Asia are actually part of one large landmass. Tradition has split the region into two continents along the Ural Mountains in western Russia.
Where does cocaine come from?
Cocaine is produced from the coca plant, which was originally domesticated by the Incas. Coca paste from the coca plant is refined to make cocaine. Illegal cartels and individuals in Colombia and other South American countries are major exporters of cocaine, especially to the United States.
What is a rain shadow?
When the moisture in the air is squeezed out by orographic precipitation. There's not much left for the other side of the mountains. The dry side of the mountain experiences a rain shadow effect because they are in the shadow of the rain.
Why was there a Russian outpost in California?
Established in 1812, Fort Ross was a Russian outpost located in what is now Sonoma County, California. The outpost was started so that Russian fur traders could explore and exploit the area. A Russian presence was maintained at the fort until 1841.
What time is it at 12 o'clock a.m.?
12 o'clock a.m. is midnight. In the middle of the night. 11:59 p.m. is followed by 12 a.m., not 12 p.m., which is noon.
Why can I hear an AM radio station from hundreds of miles away at night but not during the day?
At night, AM radio waves bounce off of a layer of the ionosphere, the F layer, and can travel hundreds, if not thousands, of miles from their source. During the day, the same reflection of radio waves cannot occur because the D layer of the ionosphere is present and it absorbs radio waves.
Why are graves above the ground in Louisiana?
In Louisiana, the water level is so close to the surface of the ground that coffins, rather than being buried, are placed in tombs above ground to avoid the possibility of coffins floating out of place. A Louisiana cemetery looks like a miniature city, with tombs and alleyways.
What is the origin of the word monsoon?
The word monsoon comes from the Arabic word mawzin, meaning season.
What is a rainforest?
A rainforest is any densely vegetated area that receives over 40 inches, 100 centimeters, of rain a year.
Did Hitler create the Autobahn?
Though the first modern freeway system in Germany was begun in 1913, Adolf Hitler did create the Autobahn during the Third Reich, from 1933 to 1945. The Autobahn is a freeway system that includes 6,800 miles, 10,941 kilometers, of road across Germany. Though it is widely believed that there are no speed limits on the Autobahn, there are a few segments with marked speed limits.
What is tundra?
Tundra is dry, barren plains that have significant areas of frozen soil or permafrost. Tundra is common in the northernmost parts of North America, Greenland, Europe, and Asia. Although rather inhospitable, there is plant life on the tundra. This life consists of low, dense plants such as shrubs, herbs, and grasses. There are even some species of insects and birds that can survive the harsh conditions of tundra.
How can I remember which way latitude and longitude run?
You can remember that the lines of latitude run east and west by thinking of lines of latitude as rungs on a ladder, latitude. Lines of longitude are quite long because they run from the North Pole to the South Pole.
Which country is the world's leading copper producer?
Chile produces an astounding 20% of the world's copper annually, and contains approximately 1/4 of the world's copper reserves. The world's total copper production is 9.2 million metric tons. Thus Chile's production is 1.8 million metric tons.
What are the largest seas?
Parts of oceans that are surrounded by islands or otherwise partially enclosed are often known as seas. The 5 largest seas in order are, the South China Sea, the Caribbean Sea, the Mediterranean, the Bering Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico.
Which European country produces the most nuclear energy?
France produces the second most nuclear energy in the world, generating 415 terawatt-hours per year. This is more than half of the 780 terawatts that the United States produces each year.
Why did early humans have no need for hours, days, weeks, or months?
Because early humans were hunters and gatherers, they had little need to know exact time. What was essential was an understanding of the seasonal migration of animals and varieties of plant life.
What is the world's longest freshwater lake?
Lake Tanganyika is 420 miles, 676 kilometers, long, the longest freshwater lake in the world. But it's only between 10 and 45 miles, 16 to 72 kilometers, wide. It lies on the border between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Tanzania. It is also the world's second deepest lake, with a maximum depth of 4,710 feet, 1,436 meters.
Where did Gauguin live?
The French painter Paul Gauguin moved to Tahiti in 1891 and later to other islands in French Polynesia to escape European civilization.